pandemic. Then the last one, the planned legislative and policy initiatives. Chairperson, we are making an observation and recommendation below around the two legislations, which is the National Small Enterprise Act and the Business Amendment Bill towards the end of the report. Then on 4 is the overview of the budget allocations of the department. It's on page 9 to page 14, Chairperson. In particular, the allocation to each unit of the department. For instance, the total budget for this year, Chairperson, we see that in this table 2, there is a slight increase from 2.5 to 2.6 billion. And then that is likely to increase to 2.8 billion in 2024-2025. We are also making a recommendation towards the end of report around this particular one, Chairperson. In terms of the programs, there are sub-programs on administration, which is program 1, ministry, departmental management, corporate services, and financial management. The MTEF allocation there, Chairperson, it's 442 million, but they project 8 million. Program 2, Chair, the MTEF allocation is 525 million. The current allocation for this financial year is 163 million. On program 3, that has not changed again from the previous annual performance plan. It still consists of the development finance management, business viability, blended finance, model funding collaboration. The allocation there is 1.3 billion for this current financial year, projected to increase during the MTEF period to 4.2 billion. Then on the last one, Chair, program 4, which is enterprise development, that is also has not changed from the previous annual performance plan. The allocation there is 922 million. Then, Chairperson, we look at from page 15. It's just the overview of the entities, Chairperson, which is CFA and SEDA. I will jump those maybe to SEDA, where there are slight changes in terms of the programs that the agency is currently implementing. You will recall, Chairperson, that during the previous year, or during the previous annual performance plan, SEDA was implementing 3 programs, but now they've added 1 program. I think it's program 3, which they called its Impact and Sustainability Program. So that's the program that has been added during the current financial year. So instead of implementing 4 programs, SEDA is now implementing, instead of implementing 3 programs like the previous financial year, they are now implementing 4 programs. Then, Chairperson, in terms of the observations, like I indicated earlier on, I will go through one observation by observation. As the 6th administration and parliament drawing ever to a close, and the MTSF 2019-2024 approaches full circle, it is imperative to reflect on the department and agencies' accomplishments and inadequacies during this term in order to locate the crucial interventions required to guarantee continuity, that is after the elections next year, and sustainability of the sector beyond this period, which is the 6th administration or 6th parliament. Having reflected on the APP and budgets for 2023-2024 of the department and entities, the Portfolio Committee hereby registers the following observations and recommendations for consideration by the department. Observation number 1, the committee observes a minor increase in the entire DSBD budget from 2.5 billion to 2.6 billion, with spending expected to rise from in fact, it's a mistake here. I'm repeating the same thing. Program 1 receives 138 million. Program 2 receives 163 million. Program 3 receives 1.3 billion, and Program 4 receives 922 million, the majority of which will be transferred to the Small Enterprise Development Agency for enterprise development and incubation support. However, the chairperson and honorable members, given the department's mandate to support hundreds of thousands of small businesses, it is one of the important frontline departments mentioned by the Minister of Finance in his February budget speech that requires an increase beyond existing baselines. In other words, the allocation is okay, but not adequate. 6.2, the committee welcomes successful consultation between the Ministers of Small Business Development and Public Administration, which resulted in the department structure being approved by the Executive Authority in September 2022. The committee is confident that this development will bring much needed stability following years of operating under a startup structure, which was essentially a root cause of high vacancy rate, particularly at senior managerial level. 6.3, a supportive and well-oiled financial infrastructure is essential in the medium to long term to encourage sustainable, viable, and significant improvements in access to SMMEs and cooperative finance. In that context, honorable members, the committee welcomes the gazetting of the SMMEs and cooperatives funding policy for public comments. Honorable members, you will recall that I actually circulated this document to a WhatsApp group of the Portfolio Committee. The expectation is the members will interrogate the document and make necessary submissions to the department. 6.4, the committee welcomes the department's recognition that there is a credit gap for SMMEs and cooperatives in South Africa that exceeds 350 billion rands. Well, Chair, this is the conservative estimates. The literature is pointing towards 500 billion, which with startups and small enterprises receiving the least amount of credit or grants. The committee applauds a suggested cocktail of interventions that would improve credit information system, de-risk lending to marginalized enterprises by rethinking collateral types, providing credit guarantees for SMMEs, and other means. Offering pre-investment support to make financial submissions more bankable and post-investment support through continuous business development support to ensure business sustainability are complementary approaches to reduce lending risk and boost take-up. 6.5, the committee supports the department's efforts to engage the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition on its BBBE policy and codes of good practice. This is in part to raise awareness of the localization policy in order to enhance the supplier development program during the current financial year. The engagement's objectives would help improve localization policy so that the department can oversee the enterprise and supplier development component and monitor the private sector's adherence to its promise. This will ensure that big businesses promote the expansion of SMMEs by cooperating SMMEs and cooperatives into their supply and value chains and putting a special emphasis on township and rural businesses. 6.6, at the start of its term in 2019, this is what I presented, Chairperson, when we discussed access to market. The committee had noted and advised that special attention should be paid to ESD and other BBBE codes of good practice, which are now used as a checkbox exercise and bring little value to the ecosystem of small businesses. In order to harness the good intentions of ESD and ensure that it is carried out, the Department of Small Business Development must strengthen its internal capacity to drive this program. The committee is taking note of the department's continued failure to refer bills to Parliament, despite many assurances in the past to do so. Since 2017, completing and referring the National Small Enterprise Act to Parliament has been a commitment expressed in all of the department's annual performance plan. But this goal, Sorry, I've just, I'm sure this person will come back. I've just denied entrance to the meeting, but I'm sure it will come back. The committee is taking note of the department's continued failure to refer bills to Parliament, despite many assurances to do so in the past. Since 2017, completion and referring of the National Small Enterprise Act to Parliament has been a commitment expressed in all the department's APPs. But this has not happened. During the consideration of the department's annual report, that is in 2020, the committee had, in light of a variety of challenges hampering the sector and hundreds of complaints from small business owners before it, recommended a segmented approach to the finalization of the Act, as done by the then Department of Trade and Industry in 2003 and 2004. The committee also take note of the department's unsuccessful attempt to carry out what it described as a reversed business case regarding the establishment of the Office of the Small Enterprise Ombud that was shared with the committee at the beginning of the financial year 2022-2023. As an alternative to the Small Enterprise Ombud's Office, the department had promised to establish the office as a juristic person within the department and in the medium term as a public entity in accordance to Schedule 3A. In this meeting, Chairperson, you will recall that the committee had given the department's effort its full backing. But Chair, clearly here, the department was only managing the committee because ever since that introduction or presentation, nothing has been presented to the committee up to so far. The committee further observes that the department intends to introduce the committee further observes that the department intends to introduce the Business Amendment Bill to Parliament by the end of 2023-2024 financial year, as stated in the most recent APP. This is the current APP under the discussion. This is despite undertaking by the department during the last year's annual performance plan to introduce the bill during Q1 of the current financial year. Q1, Chairperson, begins from April 1, May to June 30. In addition, a firm commitment to submit the Business Amendment Bill to Parliament during the first quarter of the current financial year was further discussed in a meeting between the committee secretariat, that is us, King and Nwabisa, and the department representatives, which was represented by Mr. Jeffrey Ndumo. This committee was backed up by a thorough project plan, and that was shared with the committee members. You will recall, honorable members, that after this meeting, we specifically requested that we need a sort of a Gantt chart or a project plan indicating that indeed the department will refer this bill to Parliament before June 30 of this financial year. The assurance was in response to the committee's resolution to pursue a committee bill to modernize the Business Act. No explanation is provided as to why the dates have been changed at this time. The committee is worried that the simmering conflict between local and foreign-owned businesses calls for a clear-cut policy. In this regard, there have been two ad hoc committees in Parliament, both of which have identified a lax regulatory environment. The committee observes that there is no legislation or policy to safeguard or reinforce actions meant to provide effective protection to township and rural enterprises, while comparable regulatory instruments exist in other countries. The department committed to starting the process of establishing the Small Business Advisory Body in its annual performance plan for 2022-2023. That is the last year annual performance plan, Chairperson and honorable members. The committee has consistently made this recommendation since the fifth administration because it firmly believes that the department needs an experienced, independent and external opinion on issues relating to small business development. Therefore, it supported this effort. Regrettably, There has not been any action taken to fulfill this obligation. Instead, same commitment is contained in the current APP without any explicit timeframes for when the advisory body appointment process will be started. 6.12, the committee has observed that whenever the department and agencies give performance highlights pertaining to cooperatives and informal traders, they commonly group or aggregate beneficiaries under the heading of SMMEs and cooperatives. Chair, this issue, the committee raised this issue sharply last year when it discovered that, for instance, SEFA has a tendency to group beneficiaries together. But when you drill it down to say, SEFA, give us a list of the cooperatives you supported during a particular previous year, we discovered that not even a single cooperative was funded by the agency. We went to Northwest recently. We're not sure whether there's any cooperative funded by the department and SEFA in Northwest. Such reporting practice conceals the unequal distribution of resources among SMMEs, cooperatives, and informal traders. Also, provincial aggregation rather than regions or district municipality does not offer a clear picture of how resources are divided fairly throughout the regions. Chair, in terms of the beneficiaries, the KZN is always flagged as number 2, but when you drill deeper to see where are these beneficiaries located, you'll find that most of them are located in eThekwini municipalities, with the rest of the province not benefiting at all from what SEFA or the department is offering. So this is one issue, Chairperson. We'll make a recommendation towards the end of the report to say beneficiaries must be aggregated. We need to see how many SMMEs, how many cooperatives, how many informal traders benefited from SEFA in a particular district municipality. 6.13, the committee is concerned about the departments and entities' budget cuts, with SEDA's budget in particular likely to decrease by 95 million rand during the year under review. SEDA spending is anticipated to decline at an average annual rate of 2.2% from 1 billion during the previous financial year to 944 million in 2025. This is according to estimates from National Treasury. This decline is primarily attributable to the high baseline in 2022-2023 due to the receipt of relief funding for the floods in KwaZulu-Natal. Unlike SEFA, SEDA derives its revenue exclusively from the government. Its mandate does not allow it to embark on profit-generating activities. Whilst it is understood that these reductions are provisional measures owing to hangover effects of the pandemic and current energy crisis, they are, however, being carried out in spite of the onerous responsibility entrusted to the department to turn around the curve of unemployment and ignite economic activity. 6.14, during the consideration of SEFA annual report, the committee noted SEDA's outcome of an unqualified audit finding, with findings on the reporting on predetermined objectives. According to the Auditor General, the audit outcomes had regressed to an adverse opinion, with findings due to the extent to which the majority of performance indicators were not measurable or reliable. The committee is aware that due to the ongoing uncertainty surrounding the merger of CBDA and SEFA into SEDA, it is likely that this is the cause of staff unhappiness. Maybe it's also the cause of inattitude and high employee turnover. 6.15, the committee is concerned that while cooperation between SEDA and SEFA appears to exist on paper, the contrary is actually true in practice. The committee is aware that SEFA continues to reject application for funding and business plans developed by SEDA without providing any remedy or corrective action. Additionally, some programs, such as the informal traders support programs, are implemented at the national level with insufficient information being cascaded down to the provinces to conduct monitoring and evaluation of those projects, as the committee learned recently during its oversight visit to Northwest. Then the last observation, Chair, the committee takes note of the fact that CIFA's operating model, as stated in CIFA's corporate performance plan, offers financing and business support to SMMEs and cooperatives, both directly through its regional office network and indirectly through collaboration with intermediary financial institutions like retail financial intermediaries, microfinance, joint ventures, subsidiaries, and CFIs, even though no CFI has been funded up to so far. Once again, as the committee learned during its oversight visit to Northwest, there is little being done to monitor the transformation agenda of MFIs and RFIs. The rate of interest they charge to small businesses to determine if it's compliant with the National Credit Act, the type of projects that intermediaries finance, how much support cooperatives and informal traders receive, and whether such projects adhere to CIFA and DSBD's mandate of financial inclusion. We are also making a recommendation, Chairperson, towards the end of this report around this particular issue. The following recommendations are to be taken into consideration by the Minister of Small Business Development, who is asked to report back to the committee no later than, Chairperson, here I made a mistake. I was supposed to say September, not that no later than the end of the financial year, which is 31 March next year. I will rectify that to say before the end of Q2. The first recommendation, Chairperson, South African economy needs a serious growth injection. Small businesses have been identified as a crucial sector that needs real assistance from the government and major corporations. Cuts to the budget are not an option. The department needs an open dialogue with the Ministry of Finance ahead of the budget review in October that will be presented alongside the medium-term budget policy statement in order to petition National Treasury for additional funding to address the numerous challenges brought on by the pandemic and the ongoing energy crisis. The national fiscus is shrinking as a result of a smaller tax base and numerous businesses ceasing operations. DSBD and government still have a number of weapons at their disposal, including interventions like the Loan Guarantee Program. According to estimates, Chair, the loan guarantee provision in nations like Germany amounts to almost 30% of the GDP of the nation. We are going there to learn how the Germans are doing this. The Department, National Treasury, and South African Reserve Bank must collectively formulate methods to entice commercial banks to participate in the loan guarantee program. Chair, you will note in the APP of the department that the department is making reference to South African Reserve Bank having advised commercial banks to be careful around this particular government program. I'm not even sure what that means, to advise the banks against participating in the program that is meant to grow the SMME sector. 7.3, the department is urged to expand its strategic alliances with the corporate sector and vigorously pursue outside funding alternatives, particularly for startups, by, whenever possible, providing an enabling environment. In other words, Chairperson, here we are saying the department and National Treasury must relook at improving or augmenting the loan credit guarantee scheme. Over and above credit guarantees, the department and CIFA should explore alternative and innovative financial models, such as invoice discounting, cession of contract and income, in order to unlock the balance sheet of the commercial banks. Luckily, Chairperson, we visited some of the projects in Northwest where some of the intermediaries are already providing the invoice discounting. I'm not sure if CIFA has actually embraced this particular one. Also, the cession of contracts, Chairperson, the commercial banks have often complained that National Treasury seems to be reluctant to issue a policy around this particular instrument where they can finance the purchase orders. Due to severe budgetary restrictions, the department and SEFA are unable to support millions of small enterprises. The committee will keep an eye on the department and agency quarterly reports to ensure that this suggestion is being followed through. 7.4, the committee supports the proposed initiatives to lessen the negative effects of load shedding on the small business sector. The committee urges the department to expedite these interventions so they can be announced on or before June 30, 2023. Chairperson, the committee was informed about this intervention towards the end of last year. The impression was created that the announcement will be made in due course, but it hasn't happened. So the push is to say, let it be done before the 30th of June. Since its creation, the Portfolio Committee on Small Business Development has had to deal with the issue of business registration and licensing. I referred to two parliamentary audit committees, Chairperson, that looked into xenophobic attacks in 2008 and 2015, and the recommendations that were made. Chairperson and honorable members, it is a common practice around the world to not grant permits and licenses to immigrants in fields that should be reserved for South Africans. As promised in the department annual performance plan, that is 2021-2022, the department must urgently finalize the business amendment bill and refer the same to Parliament as soon as possible. Failing which, the committee might want to consider or to go back to its resolution of, running with this, of instituting a committee bill to modernize the business amendment bill. As earlier recommended, Section 2 of the National Small Business Amendment Act, number 26 of 2003, requires the minister to appoint members of the advisory body. This is in the Act, honorable members. The committee is requesting that the department start this process right away in order to finish it by the end of the second quarter of the current financial year. Alternatively, the department is required to inform or brief the committee and give justifications for why this specific commitment is not being carried out as pledged in the successive annual performance plan from last year to the current annual performance plan. 7.7, to prevent future and unfavorable environments and suspensions, the department must examine how well it spends its base budget and swiftly identify idle reserves. The primary causes and drivers of such environments are frequently poor expenditure on programs as well as products and services, which are typically an indication of vacancies. Chair, as we indicated earlier on, the Minister of Public Administration has approved DSBD structure. It's no longer a startup structure. So the department is now at liberty to advertise senior managerial positions, and fill in those vacancies. 7.8, SEFA needs to monitor MFIs and RFIs more closely in order to make sure that they are in line with the government's mandate of making finance accessible to all. The committee will now scrutinize SEFA's quarterly reports to determine if MFIs and RFIs operations are closely monitored. MFIs and RFIs products and services should not be in competition with SEFA. They should also not work against government objectives of making development credit accessible cheaply. 7.9, the committee is once more requesting that SEDA and SEFA re-evaluate how interconnected and interdependent their services are. The committee disagrees with the idea that funding applications and business plan created by SEFA could be arbitrarily rejected without appeal or corrective actions from SEFA. Future SEFA and SEDA quarterly reports should include a column describing the current status of all applications sent to and received by the two organizations, respectively. Then the last one, Chair, to support the President's aspiration to eliminate the red tape, the committee is once again calling for the establishment of a parliamentary ad hoc committee or creation of the executive structure that will interface with the red tape reduction team at the Presidency under the guidance and leadership of Mr. Nkosi. Chair, those are 10 recommendations that as a portfolio committee we are making for consideration and approval by the department. I will stop there for now, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you, Sbu. Can we go back to our agenda, because I think deliberation must be done after the second presentation. Can you go back to our agenda, King? Can you take us through on the tabling, consideration and adoption of the March 2023 Northwest Oversight?
Oh, okay, the second one, Chairperson.
Yes.
Okay. Is it visible, Chair? Can you see from your side?
Not yet.
Tracking?
Not yet, Sbu.
Not yet.
It says it's
No, it's coming.
Started screening, yeah. There it is now. It's visible now, Sbu.
Okay, that's fine. Chair, okay. Okay, no, it's fine. Chair and honorable members, as you are aware, the Portfolio Committee undertook a trip to Northwest from 27 to 31 March. This is now the report for consideration by the Portfolio Committee. There are observations and recommendations towards the end of the report. What I will do, Chair, like the previous report that I presented, I will just glance over the document and then we will discuss observation and recommendations towards the end of the report. Chair, it's a 36-page report. Then we have introduction on page 1, which really it's the report of the Portfolio Committee that discusses its oversight to the province of Northwest from 27 to 31 March. The objective of the visit, Chair, was specifically to visit projects that are funded by the agencies of the department, which is CIFA and SEDA, and also just to go through the programs that both agencies are offering to small enterprises in Northwest. Then second page, Chair, it's the background around the visit to Northwest. This is now the 8th province that the committee has visited since proclamation in 2014. Then it's a list on page 3, it's a list of all the projects that the committee visited, and those that did not show up, they are also listed here. Then on page 4, Chair, it's the objective of the visit, which was to evaluate progress made on projects supported by CIFA and SEDA in line with their strategic plans and annual performance plan, to test the legitimacy of information provided by agencies through their quarterly and annual reports, and also to interact with the sector. 4, it's the composition of the delegation, Chairperson, members of the committee that attended, officials from Parliament, officials from the department, CIFA and SEDA, and also officials from the Department of Economic Development in the Northwest Province. Chairperson, day one,
Apologies, sir.
which was 27.
Someone
Mm.
is talking. Who's speaking?
It's Kruger. Chair, my presentation is not moving, so I don't know if everybody have the same problem, but I'm still at introduction.
Yeah, it is not. You
No,
are right.
okay.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
now moving. It's now moving. Thank you, Honorable Kruger, for that observation.
Okay. Are you covered, Honorable Kruger? Is it moving now?
Yes, as far, yes. Right, thank you.
Okay. No, it's fine. So I'm on page 5, Honorable Kruger and honorable members. Day one, we visited Mafeking local municipality. We gathered at SIFA provincial offices the group gathered there to introduce themselves, meet one another, and plan the day's events. Since the committee chairperson was not present on the first day due to earlier commitments, Honorable Hein April served as acting chairperson and leader of the delegation. Also, the deputy minister was there. She accompanied the committee to several of the locations or of the sites. The first day of the committee schedule was set aside for visits to Mahikeng Meat Market, Lonaka Projects Group, Flar Mace, in the presence of the Small Enterprise Foundation, Kings and Queens Heart, with IntelliMatch Financial Services present, visit to Mxolisi Sianyane of Peño Sanza Murana. It's a tuck shop, but registered as a company. And Miss Queen Seikepo of Kaliseho Business Enterprise, both of whom are small tuck shop owners and beneficiaries of SIFA, Spaza Grant Facility Program in partnership with Nedbank. However, Chairperson, due to time constraint, we did not visit Kings and Queens Heart on the first day, and we did not interact with IntelliMatch Financial Services. That visit was deferred for the next day. Chair, the Small Enterprise Foundation, it's an entity domiciled in Limpopo. It's registered as a non-profit company. It is licensed as a credit provider in terms of the National Credit Act by the National Credit Regulator, and that makes it eligible to provide credit to individuals and businesses. It was founded in 1991 and currently serves 163,773 customers in 7 different provinces of the country. Chair, I'm not going to go through item by item here, but safe to say that before we visited the Northwest, we had a planning meeting with colleagues from SIFA, from the department, and we specifically indicated that our primary focus when we visit Northwest will be on intermediaries. And when we visit intermediaries, we'll just take 1 or 2 samples of the ventures or businesses funded by the intermediaries. So the expectation was senior leadership from SEF should have been there. Yes, there was someone representing a Small Enterprise Foundation, but there was no senior leadership, as per the request from the Secretariat of the Portfolio Committee. For instance, members were left none the wiser regarding, among others, ownership of the company and its BBBE credentials, loan amount extended by SIFA, at what rate of interest, profile of small enterprises it supports, and the repayment record and so forth. We don't have that information, Chairperson. Then Flar Mace, it's a small survivalist venture, also located in Mabato. The business is a client of SEF, Small Enterprise Foundation, having been funded for a total of 8,000 rand. Chair, what one observed when the committee members interacted with SEF and the beneficiaries, the committee had no opinion on the SEF business or funding model. However, they were concerned about the intermediaries' reported interest rate of more than 29%. The owners of the business, who are primarily young and female, networked with the committee members, the Deputy Minister of Small Business Development, officials, the agencies, and the Provincial Department of Economic Development. Members of the committee were in agreement that the venture, it's a small tuck shop operated, in the homestead. This is a survivalist venture, Chairperson. That's why here we are saying, for instance, members expressed concern because it appeared that the relationship between SEF and CIFA was not one of a mutually beneficial partnership. For instance, there is a legitimate expectation that SEF ought to have served as the program spokesperson when the department and CIFA introduced the Spaza Shop Assistance Program, which targets township and rural entrepreneurs who run Spaza Shop, general dealers, and groceries. It is plausible to assume that this information was intentionally withheld to prevent SEF potential customers from turning to CIFA. Also unknown is why CIFA does not direct MFIs or RFIs to identify or target specific market or clientele that are not in line with the service of the department, CIFA or SIDA, so that there is complementary. Like one project, Chairperson will speak about it towards the end of the report that we visited, that was funded by Enable Capital. And Enable Capital has a niche. It specifically targets sectors like ICT, fiber installation and so forth. So it's understandable if such is given to entities like Enable Capital, because there is no capacity from CIFA to evaluate such applications. But in this particular instance, Chairperson, that's why maybe members were sort of concerned that there seems to be no complementary between what SEF is providing and CIFA, or instead there seems to be a competition between the two. Chairperson, from there we visited Lonaka Projects Group, which is a multi-purpose agricultural project based in Mmabatho. It's owned by Mr. Kagiso Dirapelo. It is a potential business initiative that is well-run, owner-managed, homestead-based, and has the necessary skill set to operate a business of its kind. The project is co-sponsored by CIFA and SIDA. The project qualified for CIFA loan of 300,000 and a grant of 50,000. Chairperson, on site, there is a poultry processing trailer, a hen that lay eggs for egg production, and modern layer poultry structure furnished with equipment for cleaning and disinfection, broiler, drinking, feeding, lighting, heating, and ventilation systems. Chairperson, the committee was quite pleased with Mr. Dirapelo's demonstrable knowledge of the sector and the business itself. The collaboration between SIDA and CIFA in this particular project was exemplary of how potential projects such as this should be cushioned and padded, especially during the early stages of operation. From the activities and assets found on site, it was evident that the enterprise had really received a sizable investment in the form of the owner's equity, considering CIFA's significant loan amount of slightly less than 300,000. In other words, Chairperson, the assets that the committee found on site, they can easily be above R1 million. The committee further learned that CIFA loan was being serviced, but not sufficiently as it should. To foster business growth, the owner identified the underlying problems, and he is collaborating with SIDA and CIFA to address those. Members of the committee directed SIDA and CIFA officials to work closely with Mr. Dirapelo to ensure that the project is nurtured to the point of self-sufficiency. From there, the committee moved to Kaliseho Business Enterprise. This is a tuck shop, Chairperson, owned by Ms. Mutla. The tuck shop is situated in Mmabatho. The tuck shop is a beneficiary of Spaza Shop grant facility under Hula Credit Guarantee Program. The program members had the honor of speaking with Ms. Mutla, who took time to outline some of the difficulties the business is operating under. She informed the committee that due to the absence of a retail infrastructure in townships, finding the ideal site for a small tuck store is often difficult as well. Then members of the committee inquired if she had received a visit from either SEDA or SIFA after she was funded, or if she has any plans of expanding the business and how much she was funded for. In response, Ms. Mutla informed the committee that she was funded for 3,500 in 2020. Since she received funding in 2020, neither SIFA nor SEDA have visited her. She replied in the affirmative, expressing a desire to grow a business should the opportunity arise. Members were obviously alarmed at the discrepancy of information relayed by the recipient, which is Ms. Mutla, and the documents submitted by SIFA to the committee, which indicated a funding to the tune of 10,500. SIFA representatives who were present, this is now the SIFA regional manager or provincial manager, could not provide answers at the time, but undertook to follow up with the national office to find out precisely what could have transpired. The committee then thanked Ms. Mutla for her time and assured her that they will keep her updated on the status of the remaining balance of 7,000. Chair, Nwabisa is here. Nwabisa, if you can please take note, because I believe you also made follow-up calls to these beneficiaries to see if this money was indeed received. Then from there, Chairperson, we went to Mahikeng Meat Market, which is a private initiative owner managed by Mr. Kirapetswe Ramunyane. The project is located between the towns of Lichtenberg and Mahikeng. The project is a beneficiary of SIFA direct lending. It is funded for a sum total of 4.53 million, which was divided into 8 tranches. Nwabs, I think we should also include the grant element here, because I believe there is a grant element as well. The application for finance was lodged with SIFA in 2018. However, due to the advent of the COVID-19 pandemic, its processing was delayed. The business, when the committee interacted with the owner of the business, we discovered that the business specializes in the preparation, processing, and value-adding of meat into beef patties, sausages, meats, etc. Its target market are restaurants, hotels, and random clients that want meat for weddings, funerals, and various other functions. Some clients buy plain carcasses. The Mahikeng Meat Market does not own cattle. Neither does it own the property or land where the structure is erected. The land belongs to Barolong Barapulana Trust, and through the Communal Property Association Act, the CPA, descendants of the tribe have unrestricted access to land. So this is how Mr. Ramunyane is benefiting from the, that is how Mr. Ramunyane is operating in that area. Chair, towards the end of during the interactions with the committee inquired if Mr. Ramunyane was actually servicing SIFA loan. And then it discovered that the SIFA loan was used to purchase 2 trucks. It made renovations in the property and bought new refrigerators while the owner is getting paid from the same loan. As a result, Mr. Ramunyane has asked SIFA for moratorium since the loan is not being serviced. The reason why the project is not fully operational, it's the absence of HACCP, which is the Hazard Analysis Critical Control Point. This is the foremost cause of the company's inability to operate optimally or break even. Chair, we are making note here that during interactions with the owner and manager of the project, members immediately realized that this is a typical initiative that SIFA sponsored without conducting an adequate due diligence. Adhering to HACCP compliance is a legal requirement for major chain stores like Woolworths, Checkers, Pick n Pay, restaurants, and hotels. This is the target market, Chairperson. It follows that the business plan that was submitted to SIFA would have contained this information, because SIFA would obviously ask, who is your target market? Then the manager will say, I'm targeting Woolworths, Checkers, Pick n Pay, restaurants, etc. And then HACCP, it's a legal requirement for one to be approved. SEDA do assist aspiring entrepreneurs to comply with such standards, including labeling. It is not clear how the funding was approved without these requirements. Also, Chairperson, for the committee to note is that the National Credit Act requires a credit provider to perform a pre-agreement evaluation before issuing credit in order to prevent credit from being given carelessly. The assessment's goal is to determine a consumer's ability to pay back the proposed credit within the agreement's terms and circumstances. Presently, there is no reason to think or suggest that SIFA painstakingly went through that grueling procedure. Alternatively, SIFA could have approved Mahikeng Meat Market application without HACCP certificate and disburse money once the client conformed with HACCP requirements. Reasonable care and caution was accordingly not exercised in this particular project. From there, Chair, we visited the spaza shop owner managed by Mr. Nxolisi Sianyane. It is based in Dibate village in Mabato. Mr. Sianyane is also a beneficiary of the SIFA spaza shop grant facility, a program that is offered with Nedbank. When the committee went to his doors, the business was fully operational. That was quite impressive. The shop's inventory is made up of everyday items, including bread, beverages, fruits, and cigarettes, etc. He uses a rented property to run his business. Then, Chair, the department, in 2020, Mr. Sianyane received a grant funding of 3,500 from SIFA. But according to the documentation provided to the committee, he was paid 3,500 rands in May 2020 and 7,000 rands in 31 March 2022. While speaking with the committee, he only acknowledged receiving 3,500 and admitted that SIFA had called him the day before to inquire whether he had received the additional 7,000 rands. So some of the recipients were only called when the committee was in Northwest. Chair, I will jump to the next one because they are more or less the same. So this was the last one, Chairperson, we did during the first day. Then on the second day, we visited Ditsobotla local municipality, where the committee visited Blossom Bakery and Distribution. It's a private initiative based in Itsoseng Township. It's owned by Mr. Josimele. Before the COVID-19 pandemic in 2019, the project was conceived and launched. They are renting the property from the Northwest Development Corporation. The project is sponsored by SIFA and SEDA. SIFA authorized a loan amount of 350,000 rands plus a grant portion of 5,000 under the Township and Rural Entrepreneurship Program, TREP. The owner informed the committee that he bought the equipment, ovens, mixers, washing scales, baking, and utensils with the money he received from SIFA. While SEDA provided the company with marketing and promotional material to the tune of about 550,000, and also under technology transfer assistance, not program, TTA, SEDA assisted the project with the creation of a business plan that enabled SIFA funding. Also, the Provincial Department of Economic Development assisted the project with a grant funding of 200,000, which the business owner used to reinforce operations and acquired, among others, the Jojo tank, refrigerators, and equipment. Chair, let me jump there and then go to the next one as well. This is, again, like Lunaco projects that the portfolio committee had visited the day before. This is one of the projects that is supported by both SEDA and CIFA. It's a very promising project. It has potential. Mr. Khosimele wants to expand operations to include cakes, pastries, and other baked foods. In terms of servicing CIFA loan, he is servicing CIFA loan, but also he's not doing it adequately. Some of the reasons why he's not doing so, it's because of the energy crisis that is currently going on. And also he requested the committee to intervene because he's trying to acquire a delivery vehicle. He actually showed us 2 vehicles on site that he uses to deliver his bread, which are definitely not usable for that purpose. So his application, additional application to CIFA was declined because of the affordability. The committee members were impressed with the commercial endeavor and agreed to support the founders' visions and goals. Then from there, Chair, we visited Ramosesane Tselapedi Enterprise 2015. It's registered as Ramosesane Tselapedi Enterprise 2015 Pty Ltd. It's a tuck shop, Chair, based in the area called Rooigrond, outside Lichtenburg. It's a family-oriented business owned and managed by husband and wife, Mr. and Mrs. Tselapedi. Similar to the other projects visited by the committee the day before, the beneficiary of the spaza shop, it's a beneficiary of the CIFA spaza shop grant facility. They only received 3,500 rands in 2020. They are not aware of the 10,500 rands that they are alleged to have received in 2022. Chair, again, let me jump to the next one. Oh, okay, in this one, Chair, okay, during the previous day, members had complained to CIFA and the department to say they are frustrated because they were not getting answers. Each time a committee member pose a question, the provincial manager will call the national office. So there was then a decision to say maybe someone from the national office must on Tuesday, yes, be present in the briefings. And then the committee was joined by Mr. Litlatsa, Mr. Lehana. He's the head of Kula Credit Guarantee. He was present during this leg of the visit. He explained to the committee that the fund's original ceiling was 3,500 rands. However, CIFA made a strategic decision to increase this fund to 10,500. All recipients of the spaza shop grant facility had their remaining 7,000 rands transferred into their Nedbank mobile money wallet as early as March 2022. He said that possibly CIFA might have done better after being questioned by members about why the recipients were not called or informed. Additionally, he also tried to correct information communicated the day before that the 7,000 rands was actually a grant, not a debt. The committee's chairperson appreciated the clarity and thanked Ms. Tselapedi for her time and for sharing her personal experience with the committee. She gave her assurance that the situation with the remaining 7,000 rands will be investigated and the response given before Friday, March 31, 2023. I hope, Nwabiso, you are taking notes because I believe you also called these guys. In fact, I've been in discussion with Mr. Tselapedi as well myself, where I've discovered that he has actually received the money and he bought some stuff from Wonderland in Klerksdorp, which is about 170 kilometers away from where the tuck shop is operated. Then the next one, chairperson, was Mwaludi Tuck Shop. It's owned by Miss Maria Molawudi. The establishment is situated in the local municipality of Tisobotla, also in Lichtenberg. Also, the project received 3,500 rands. It's a beneficiary of the Spaza Shop grant facility. In this particular visit, Chairperson, we note that there was a serious complaint from Ms. Mwaludi with the prevalence of immigrants in the Spaza Shop sector, including Somalis, Bangladeshis, and Pakistanis. She believed that South Africans should be the only ones working in this industry. She also lamented the local government's dearth of fund and lack of business support. As a sector, they feel let down by the local government failure to implement the bylaws. Backyard crops, it's one of the projects, Chairperson, that we visited. It is a beneficiary of the Kula Credit Guarantee or Portfolio Credit Guarantee. It actually received its funding. ABSA is ostensibly financing the company with 4.6 million. The company consequently benefits from the CIFA Portfolio Credit Guarantee, under which CIFA will assume 80% of the debt in the event that ABSA client, which is Backyard Crops Ltd, defaults. CIFA's credit guarantee provides lenders, commercial banks in particular, and other financial institutions with a variety of credit guarantee options for SME borrowers whose access to finance is restricted because they lack the necessary collateral. Chairperson, the committee spent little time on this project because the owner, Mr. Johannes, was not available to interact with the committee. We don't know why he was not there. There is also no reasons provided by CIFA as to why he declined the invitation by the committee without apology. From there, we went to Lesh Tuck Shop. It's a small tuck shop in Manza village under Mahikeng local municipality. It is also a Spaza Shop grant facility alleged to have received 10,500, but when the committee interacted with Mr. Rorisang, the son, because Ms. Musele Lishomo was not present when the committee visited her premises due to prior church commitments. Mr. Rorisang Lishomo informed the committee that the project only received 3.5 in 2020, and they were unaware of the further 7,000 rands that was allegedly given in 2022. Because the business owner, Ms. Lishomo, was unavailable, interactions with Mr. Lishomo were restricted to learning a few details about CIFA support and the business itself. The chairperson commended the family for making time to communicate with the committee. Once more, she reiterated her commitment to following up on unresolved issues involving purportedly paid money. Nobs, I presume you are making note of this as well. Then, Chair, you will recall that IntelliMatch Financial Services and Kings and Queen had actually been scheduled for the first day, but due to time constraint, they were then deferred to the following day. IntelliMatch Financial Services owner and manager was not available to interact with the committee. Neither was the director of the Kings and Queen Heart Pty Ltd. But Chairperson, this is one of the CIFA intermediary that is domiciled in Sentin, Gauteng. It is fully registered in terms of the Companies Act and fully licensed by National Credit Regulator. It's owned by Mr. Karel Hublang Mahale, who was not present on site when the committee had planned to interact with one of his company's beneficiaries, Kings and Queen's Heart. There has also been no explanation provided for his absence. Chair, I'm going to rush to the next one. Well, the Chair, here what the committee is raising towards the latter part of this section is the committee is noting with concern that there seems to be information blackout about this particular intermediary. We don't know anything about this intermediary, Chairperson. The committee further records with great concern that the director is also a director of Tautona Holdings, presently entangled in a fierce battle with the South African Reserve Bank. This chair, it's a public information. It's a publicly gazetted document in the General Notice 735 of 2021. In other words, Chairperson and honorable members, CIFA approved funding to a company whose director was a subject of inquiry by the state for allegedly appropriating more than 10 million rands from public funds. This is what South African Reserve Bank is demanding from this company. Again, Chairperson, the due diligence meticulously carried out and conducted with a high level of care, skill, and knowledge should and would have uncovered some of the questionable material, especially because it is publicly available. The same company, Tautona, is also a beneficiary recipient of Industrial Development Corporation funding to the tune of 2.6 million in August 2018. We do not know, Chairperson, whether this loan is being serviced. Maybe additional inquiry is required in this regard to check which other FDI is owed money by this particular company or by IntelliMatch Financial Services. Chairperson, we don't know if CIFA loan is being serviced. We don't know how much money was given to this particular company. There is just no information. As you are aware, Chairperson, there is a pending request for further information from the ministry, the department, and CIFA around this particular company. This company, Chairperson, the intermediary funded Kings and Queens Heart. It's a registered private company under the directorship of Mr. Kitumezi Lisiko Khopane. Its domicilium address is Peace Crescent in Mabato. Again, Chair, during the oversight visit in Northwest, the committee visited a trading hub where it is alleged that the business is operated from, but the gates were locked. IntelliMatch Financial Services provided funding to this particular company to the tune of 2.6 million over the course of 4 installments. Attempts at reaching out the owner of the business and the fund proved futile when we visited this project. Again, the committee is awaiting the report from CIFA, which will hopefully shed light on what precisely is going on with the project. Then, Chair, on day 3, we visited Rustenburg local municipality. The following small businesses and individuals were scheduled for visits: Big Engineering Solutions, OM Setters, Mohake Legacy Holdings, the school, Hood Technische School in Rustenburg, Miss Memory Chauke, Miss Karabom Lautz, Volt Amp Technologies, Ezemali Africa, Brighton Capital, and Miss Cindy Somaume. Chair, during this leg of the visit, we met at the CEDA offices in Rustenburg for a debrief. In this meeting, there was CFO representing Ezemali, which is a 4-year-old private company based in Centurion, Pretoria. It was registered in 2019 and granted a license by the National Credit Regulator in February 2021. It is unclear, Chairperson, when CIFA granted it approval to operate as an RFI or MFI, because by 2021, the same year it was licensed by NCR, it had already started issuing out loans. This is the information we got from CIFA. One such endeavor is the Rustenburg base, or one of the beneficiaries of Ezemali Africa is the school, Hood Technische School, also based in Rustenburg. Other Northwest clients funded by the same intermediary are DHA Mahikeng. This is not a registered company, Chairperson, and the Donkey Dairy Pty Ltd. We don't know what does this particular company do, whether it's conducting a business that is in line with the mandate of the department and CIFA. Chairperson, the CIFA terms and conditions that governs how RFIs and MFIs are recruited it is a requirement that a prospective RFI or MFI must have a minimum of 2 years in operation with a demonstration of microfinance lending and alignment of the institution's operations to CIFA's developmental objectives. The agency policies do not contain any clauses that provide a waiver or suspension of these obligations. It is quite evident in this situation that CIFA regulations and policies were disregarded when Ezemali Africa was accepted. The company's chief financial officer, who appeared on behalf of the company, stated that CIFA authorized the funding to the tune of 20 million rands around a year and a half ago, which means it's the same year when this company actually obtained its credit provider license from the National Credit Regulator. On the other hand, Chairperson, the school is a public secondary. It is not a non-profit organization or for-profit institution, as it was alleged in the briefing. It is not a non-profit company, it's a public school. As a public school, it receives all of its funding support from the government. Accordingly, funding of the public facility is not in line with CIFA mandate. Ezemali Africa approved funding for the school to lease but not acquire printers. Honorable members, this is strange. In terms of the arrangement, Ezemali Africa would pay the supplier to lease printers to the school and would later send invoices to the school. Ezemali would then send invoices to the school. The intermediary is effectively serving as a middleman. It is ridiculous how this whole arrangement is set up. Once more, the type of activity being carried out by the intermediary does not complement CIFA mandate, which is to support small enterprises financially. When the committee visited Northwest, schools were on recess. It could not therefore interact with the school's management and the school governing body to understand how was this loan acquired and how does it assist the school. The rate of interest charged by the intermediary to its clients varies depending on the prevailing repo rate and what CIFA charges. However, on average, the markup is 5%, is usually levied to help the intermediary cover its overhead cost. On the question of ownership, the committee learned that the Black ownership makes up 51% of the business. The next one, Chairperson, Brighton Capital, was not present. It was supposed to meet with the committee at the premises of Volt Amp Technologies, but no one showed up, and there is no apology received by the committee as to why they were not there. But we visited Volt Amp Technologies, which is a Black-owned firm based in Rustenburg. It was founded in 2018. It has experienced exponential growth. It provides engineering design, manufacturing, repairing, and installation to industries, mines, and municipalities. Mr. Karabo Masoko is the managing director and the shareholder of the company. He is the one who welcomed members of the committee and took them through the operations and processes. The company has a stable clientele, Chairperson, that include but not limited to Coca-Cola, Eskom, SABS, Royal Bafokeng, Nestle, Stillwater, and Transnet. The intermediary chair was funded by Brighton Capital for 2.6 million when the company needed loan to expand the business operation. Members probed Volt Amp Technologies' decision not to contact CIFA or commercial banks concerning expansion plan. They also inquired about the rate of interest the intermediary charged. In his briefing, Mr. Masoko explained that he had just recently discovered that he had actually borrowed money from the government through a third party who had at one point imposed a 22% interest rate. CIFA members who were present in this leg of the visit were asked the same question on the rate. How much interest would CIFA have charged the company if CIFA had been approached directly by the company? The reply was that CIFA typically adds 3 to 5% to the repo rate. The repo rate, Chairperson, is 10.5% currently, meaning CIFA would usually add maybe 3 to 5%, which comes to the region of about 13, 14%. Then the intermediary would then add its own markup, which usually takes it beyond 20%. The members' main concern with intermediaries is that SEFA has a responsibility to offer developmental credit as a development finance institution, which implies low payback rates. However, rather than SEFA's target market and end users, such as informal traders, spaza shop owners, small businesses, and cooperatives, middlemen or intermediaries end up being the biggest beneficiaries of this program. Members commended the managing director for making them feel welcome and advised him to speak to SEFA directly for future financial needs. Chair, one thing that we did not mention here is that this particular company is servicing a Brighton Capital loan very well. There are no issues, there are no excuses. They are doing it very well. Then the next visit, Chairperson, was to Ms. Karabo Mlaudzi and Memory Chauke. I was supposed to include Memory Chauke here. They are both beneficiaries. Now, Chair, it differs here. These ones are beneficiaries of Informal Traders Support Program. Hence, they received 3,000 rands, not 3,500 or 10,500. The program is awarded to selected informal traders through Nedbank Money, Mobi Money Wallet. Applications not prepared nor submitted by individuals, traders, but an association. In other words, no application will be accepted by SEFA coming from an individual, unlike the spaza shop, where the individual can apply directly to SEFA. These ones, they apply through the business forums, they apply through the association, through local economic development offices of the municipality, or they must approach CEDA branch offices. The committee networked with the recipients who benefited from the program to ascertain what they did with the money, how did it assist them, and other assistance they require from the department. Members also queried as to why in this case, compared to spaza shop program, amounts were not the same, which was explained by Mr. Don Mashele of SEFA, that this one, it's more or less a spaza shop is more or less a top notch of informal trading, because they also incur cost of operating. Like others, they pay rent, others they pay electricity bills and so forth. Whereas the informal traders, it's a hawker or street vendor of some sort. They don't incur any cost to actually carry out their operation. Hence the discrepancy in terms of the amount. Chair, from there, the committee went to one of the lady, Miss Moletsane, Oteng Moletsane. She's the owner of OM Setters, which is a youth female-owned business based in Bukeng, Rustenburg. The business is financed by SEFA for a loan amount of 336,000 rands and a grant of 50,000. Miss Moletsane has been around. She started the business first by attending trainings with NYDA, Royal Bafokeng Enterprise Development, they call it RBD, and CEDA. She informed the committee that these trainings were very helpful in terms of sharpening a business awareness and acumen. Chairperson, Miss Moletsane is involved in the landscaping business. She's doing work for Bafokeng Rasimone Platinum Mine and Fraser Alexander. Even though these are not long-term based projects, but based on purchase order, meaning she's just given a purchase order to do a specific work. They do, however, make a difference. She was assisted by the TTA program of CEDA to the tune of about 150,000 while starting a landscaping business. Chairperson, one thing to note here is that she's servicing SIFA loan, but again, she's not doing it adequately. She is working with SIDA and SIFA provincial offices to ensure that she recapitalizes the program, because according to what she told the portfolio committee, they have collectively identified areas where Ordain require assistance. The committee was pleased by Ms. Molotsane's compelling presentation and her entrepreneurially adventurous attitude. On behalf of the committee, the chairperson thanked her for finding time, despite her busy schedule, to brief the committee. She was in the battlefield, the chairperson will recall, and I still recall that members of the portfolio committee were quite impressed with that. Then from there, it's Big Engineering, which is 100% Black-owned company. It's based in Bogdal, Rustenburg. It was registered in 2013 with a focus on providing mining engineering services and products. It's a relatively young company by the standards of the South African mining sector, but it has established a solid reputation as a trustworthy partner to many operators in the Northwest Province and beyond. Chair, this project was funded by SIFA for 11.6 million, and then it was given a grant of 2.1 million. The directors who welcomed the committee members and gave them a tour of the facility told the committee that the funds helped the company to expand its operation and fulfill an increasing number of orders from clients. This company is renting a property which was inherited from Botswana. It's a former TBVC state by provincial government through the Northwest Development Corporation. This is now the second project that the committee visited that is renting property through the Northwest Development Corporation. The company entered into a 10-year lease and renting an amount of 50,000 rands every month, while on one hand, it is servicing a SIFA loan of 200,000. Like all other small businesses, load shedding related challenges are threatening evolution of such venture. Chair, one thing that maybe we need to make note of here is that the lease is 10 years. Ideally, particularly because of the investment that they've done on these premises, they would want to go on a 30-year lease. Maybe it's one thing that this committee may want to take a decision on. In terms of the employment, Chair, they have 3 divisions which employs about 60 employees. The business is easily repaying the SIFA loan. The committee members were quite impressed by the business, which served as a living testimony that anything is possible. The chairperson thanked the management and wished them well. I forgot to thank the food here, chairperson. We ate nice food here. Then the next one, Chair, it's called Vinci Cyber Cafe, but it is formally registered as Active Task Pty Ltd. It was formed in 2014 by Mr. Vincent Tladi. It was funded by SIFA for 105,000 plus 5,000 rand in grant funding. It is operating an internet cafe. It does printing, duplex printing, bulk printing, email, faxing, laminating, flyers, and so forth. As part of its scheduled visit, the committee went to see Mr. Tladi's operation. It's in Marikana, where it is currently operating. Mr. Tladi informed the members during the briefing that he purchased an all-in-one. It's an industrial printing equipment that he acquired with the loan that he received from SIFA. He did, however, confirm that the machine was not there. It was instead in Randburg, Gauteng, in one of his internet cafe. Members questioned whether it was appropriate for a Northwest entity to request support to buy equipment for use in another province, and whether SIFA was aware of the equipment's position. Not too many responses were forthcoming in this regard. Mr. Tladi informed the committee that he was making little payments when he had enough savings in response to the question of whether the CFA loan was being serviced or not. The machine remained unused, which presented a problem. The committee expressed worry that even the first floor area his company was using was insufficient to house the kind of printer he claimed to have purchased. Again, Chairperson, this is one of the projects that it may have been funded without properly subjecting it to due diligence. The members of the committee decided that CFA should draft a report outlining how this situation will be resolved. The machine is not there. The client is not servicing CFA money. The area in which the client is operating, it can accommodate this particular machine. Yeah. Then on the last day, Chair, of the visit was earmarked for interactions with Forward Finance, Nyami Berries, Enable Capital, Vunego Technologies, Optimum Harvest Cooperative Limited, and Batlakotimo Service Primary Cooperative Limited. And also, Chairperson, on its way towards Gauteng, the committee was invited by CEDA to pay a courtesy visit to a pop-up market at Brett Mall. The aim of this initiative, Chair, is to assist SMMEs and cooperatives with access to market. Well, I'm not going to go through with the CEDA. It was just a courtesy call that the portfolio committee did to some of the small enterprises that were exhibiting their products at Brett Mall. Chair, in terms of the portfolio committee schedule on the last day, we had planned to visit Nyami Berries. It's a farm. It's based in Moinoi, outside Brett. It's based in Moinoi, outside Brett, Chairperson. It is understood that the financing is a portion of the 30 million euros that the European Union Commission allocated to CFA for the employment promotion via SMME support program. Chair, this particular project, we are making again an observation towards the end of the report to say the information that was given to the portfolio committee is that it's the company that funded Nyami Berries, it's EU Forward Finance Accelerator Pty Ltd. Such company does not exist. So in the absence of information, Chairperson, we are presuming that Forward Finance Pty Ltd, which is based in Hilton, Pietermaritzburg, KwaZulu-Natal, is the one that funded Nyami Berries. The Forward Finance Pty Ltd was registered in 2011, licensed in 2013 as a credit provider by NCR. It provides a variety of innovative solutions for its clients who are mainly farmers and agri-contractors. Some of its products are early payment on delivery and cash flow facility, which basically provides the farmer access to cash throughout the season. Forward Finance funded Nyami Berries Pty Ltd for an amount of 53 million. The Nyami Berries itself, its offices are located in Paarl, Western Cape. However, the project that the committee visited is located at R104 in Moinoi. Chair, one thing we noted about this particular project is that the Australian High Commissioner in South Africa, Ms. Gita Kamath, visited the project in August 2022. And in this visit, this project was branded as a United Exports flagship blueberry farm. We don't know what that means, Chairperson, as we await additional information from CFA to clarify us as to what exactly is going on here. Chair, a written request for supplementary information about the project from Parliament's officials to CFA, Mr. George Mutwa, who was there when we visited the project, and Mr. Kahisho Manjinja, who is the CFA provincial manager, have also not been responded. So we are still waiting. The committee is aware that specifics about this initiative could be included in a thorough report by the agency that will be provided to the committee in due course. Next one, Chair, which did not honor the committee's invitation, was Enable Capital, which funded Mfunego Technologies. It's also a registered company, licensed by National Credit Regulator. It therefore qualifies to provide credit. It specializes in the provision of short-term funding solutions to subcontractors involved in the physical construction and deployment of local, regional, and national fiber network infrastructure in South Africa. Chairperson, we are noting here that by using an invoice discounting model to help relieve cash flow constraints, Enable Capital offers creative financing option to subcontractors through its unique technology and platform. Invoice financing gives the small businesses access to funds when cash flow stalls. In other words, when the payments are delayed, invoice financing could be an option for small businesses. And this is one innovative instrument, Chairperson, that we are recommending that USIFA should adopt going forward.
Sbu, are you still there?
He has disappeared.
I thought I lost connection, Chairperson.
Am I audible?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Am I
We can
audible?
hear you now. Yeah,
Yeah,
but we don't
can
have,
hear
we
you,
don't
but-
see the presentation.
So, Chair,
Mm. There is no presentation on the screen.
okay, let me check again, Chair. Let me try and upload it again. Can you see it now?
Yes. We can.
Okay. Chair. Yes, Chair. I was on Able Capital and Mfunego Technologies. Mfunego, it's one of the projects we visited, Chairperson, you will recall, owned by Mr. Botha. Chair, here we are saying the portfolio committee is on record having expressed support for the innovative funding methods, such as invoice discounting and cession of contract to income to alleviate pressure on fiscus. However, it does not help the process much if the government is the source of those funds. So what we're saying here, Chairperson, is USIFA must go out and look for private sector partnership. Old Mutual announced recently that Hybrid Equity, a division of Old Mutual Alternative Investments, has acquired a substantial percentage in the capital structure on Able Capital. These are some of the innovative ideas, Chairperson, that ideally USIFA should actually be pursuing with the assistance of the department. Chair, the Enable Capital was registered in July 2018, licensed in 2020. It is based in Paarl, Western Cape. Its client, Mfunego Technologies, was funded by Enable Capital to the tune of 2 million. Chair, this is one of the projects again where the owner was not aware that he can actually approve. Am I audible, Chair? Colleagues?
Yes, you are over.
Okay.
More, come again. You are
No,
audible.
I'm drawing to a close, Chairperson. So the next project we visited was Optimum Harvest Cooperative Limited. It's a youthful Okay, it's Chairperson, it's based in Brits in Northwest. It is a 5-member cooperative registered in 2013. It has benefited from the Department of Small Business Development CIS grant portion of 320,000. It was also assisted by the Department of Agriculture to the tune of 2 million rands, which it used to reinforce operations in the farm. It was also supported by the NYDA to the tune of 50,000 rands to acquire the new transmission. Chair, the project is not fully operational, but CIFA and CEDA were there. The committee ordered CEDA to conduct an analysis of the cooperative's business operations with a view to allocating the required resources to scale up agricultural activities, as it called for adjournment of the meeting. Then the last project, Chair, that the committee visited was Batlako Timo Services Primary Cooperative, which is a family-run operation based in Brits as well. Chair, this is one of the most progressive projects visited by the committee, operating and located in Brits. CEDA has been very active in terms of assisting this particular cooperative right from 2010. The cooperative first approached CEDA when individual members were farming sunflower on their personal farms. The members sought advice on how to become self-sufficient. According to CEDA's initial analysis, the cooperative was not registered. The cooperative had a skewed partnership with Obaro, where most of the proceeds would go. Their suppliers of seedling, diesel, and harvesting equipment. The CEDA intervention, honorable members, included aiding the cooperative in terms of the registration. It also aided the cooperatives in terms of training of growing vegetables and sunflower. They were also referred to Land Affairs for information on buying or leasing a government farm. So, Chair, in conclusion, this is a very viable project. It currently employs over 70 seasonal workers, in addition to 10 permanent employees. There are currently 16,000 citrus trees on the farm. In addition to its export contracts, the cooperative also provides services to regional businesses. The cooperative briefed the committee in a freshly constructed pack house. It's a new pack house that the rural development paid for approximately 15 million rands. The cooperative's members were sure that the pack house will significantly reduce costs and eventually result in the cooperative hiring perhaps more than 200 employees. The committee inspected the project and was quite pleased with how the business is run. The chairperson urged CEDA to keep supporting the cooperative and actively seek out measures that will advance the project alongside CIFA and the department. Then, Chair, on the basis of our visit in Northwest, these are some of the committee observations that we are making. Number one, following the committee visit to Northwest Province and in response to directives from committee members to gather more information about some of the projects, the chairperson wrote to the ministry, department, and CIFA Accounting Authority requesting additional information to enable the committee make an informed judgment and plan the next steps for some of the projects. Since then, neither the department nor CIFA has provided the Secretariat with any such information. The second one, the committee notes that scheduled meeting with intermediaries who did not partake in the oversight visit as requested by the committee was cancelled. This was the meeting, honorable members, that was supposed to have taken place last week. The meeting was cancelled at the behest of the minister. The intermediaries are IntelliMatch Financial Services, Brighton Capital Pty Ltd, Forward Finance Pty Ltd, and Enable Capital Pty Ltd. Number three, members voiced concerns during the oversight that CIFA's wholesale lending program has too many hurdles and does not support the agency's original purpose of financial inclusion. Some of the observations made by members are as follows. Most of the intermediaries do not comply with the lending procedures as stipulated in the National Credit Act. They charge exorbitant interest rate beyond the required limit. Marang Financial Services Pty Ltd, erstwhile or former SIFA client, is one such intermediary that was found to have engaged in prohibited conduct by violating the Act's stipulated provisions, specifically overcharging clients for amounts in excess of the authorized fees and interest. It was fined by the National Credit Regulator and later applied for liquidation while it was still owing SIFA more than 80 million rands. Committee members were also unimpressed by the Small Enterprise Foundation's reported 29% interest rate against Flarm Hayes, a survivalist business venture. The intermediaries increased the cost of credit for the recipients or end user, who are ultimate SIFA beneficiaries. According to SIFA, intermediaries received on average prime lending rate, which is 10.5 plus 3 to 5%, and double or triple to what SIFA charges. In other words, it does not set or determine the markup percentage. SIFA does not determine the markup percentage that each intermediary should charge. SIFA does not supervise or monitor the interest rates that intermediaries charge their clients. It sees this as a unique responsibility of the regulator, which is the National Credit Regulator. However, the regulator responds and investigates only when there is a complaint against the credit provider. Same as Marang Financial Services. There was a complainant. That's when National Credit Regulator embarked on an investigation, and a lot after that was discovered. Some of the projects funded by intermediaries do not conform to SIFA's mandate of supporting small enterprises as defined in the National Small Enterprise Act, like funding of the school. When selecting RFIs and MFIs to partner with, SIFA does not impose any conditions like the BBBE standards or transformation agenda that each intermediary must meet. As a result, the majority of intermediaries on the SIFA database are white-owned. Intermediaries themselves are not obligated to support government transformation efforts. 9.3.6, the NCR licensing status for some of the intermediaries like De Novo Medical Solutions, Pty Ltd, is not known or cannot be determined. This is one of the SIFA intermediaries, honorable members, that is on the SIFA database, but it does not appear on the NCR database. So we're not sure whether it is registered or whether it is licensed or not. The committee's request for SIFA to produce profiles of its intermediaries has not been met. The committee has limited information at its disposal. As a result, it is unable to adequately discharge its responsibilities to examine SIFA's programs as mandated by the Constitution. Unlike direct lending, where SIFA recipients benefit from affordable interest rate and blended finance, this is now the portion component. Intermediary clients are not extended that courtesy. One project or company, Kings and Queens Heart Pty Ltd, funded by IntelliMatch Financial Services Pty Ltd, was not found. To date, the committee has no idea where the company is or if it even exists. During the oversight, attempts to trace both the financier, which is the owner of IntelliMatch Financial Services, and the receiver, which is the director of Kings and Queens, were unsuccessful. Some intermediaries, like Ezemali Africa, IntelliMatch Financial Services, and others, they qualify as SIFA intermediaries immediately after licensing. This cast doubt on the effectiveness of recruitment process because SIFA policies and guidelines stipulate that prospective MFI or RFI must have a minimum of 2 years lending experience. For instance, Ezemali Africa is a 4-year-old company registered in 2019. It was granted a credit provider license by the NCR in February 2021 But on the same year, when it was licensed by NCR, it had already started issuing out loans. So it means there is a possibility that CIFA regulations and policies were violated when this particular company was approved. The committee observed that there are very good projects funded by intermediaries. Volt Amp Technology is one such company funded by Brighton Capital Pty Ltd. It is a business venture that ticks all the boxes. However, as noted above, its repayment interest is in excess of 22%. And by virtue of having been funded by an intermediary, it did not qualify for a blended finance benefit, which is a grant component. 9.4, in terms of direct loans, the committee visited Lonaga Projects Pty Ltd and Mahikeng Mid-Market Pty Ltd. The committee found significant differences between the two projects. Lonaga has the lowest funding, but is fully operating. Lonaga funding is 300,000. Mahikeng Mid-Market is funded for 4.3 million. It received the largest portion of the CIFA loan, although it is not operating owing to poor due diligence. Both initiatives benefited from blended finance and low interest. 9.5, members of the committee observed that CIFA does not even know the exact location of the projects it funded. Most of the projects the committee visited had to be looked for or searched with CIFA officials. Impairments and loan write-offs are still very high because there is no post-investment support and monitoring to conduct early detection, analyze and manage troubled projects. On informal traders support program, the committee visited 2 projects funded for 3,000 rands. Members noted that funding between this program and the Spaza Shop program amounts were not the same. Informal traders received 3,000 rands, while Spaza Shop owners get 3,500 rands plus top-up of 7,000 rands. The committee also visited the recipients of the Spaza Shop grant facility. According to information provided to Parliament, Spaza business owners were approved for 3.5 at the height of the COVID-19 outbreak in 2020. CIFA, on the other hand, later made the strategic decision to expand this fund to 10.5. As early as March 2022, all Spaza Shop grant facility participants had their remaining 7,000 rands put into their Nedbank MobiMoney wallet. The 7,000 rand is disputed by all of the beneficiaries with whom the committee met. They were then instructed to check their MobiMoney wallet balances. Members thought it was strange that no one cared to investigate whether money allegedly paid more than a year ago truly went to the right people. The committee noted that most of the challenges faced by Spaza Shop owners across the country are almost identical. The owners raised concerns of large retailers encroaching on their space, foreign-owned businesses, high transportation costs, criminality, ongoing energy crisis, and lack of customers and financial wherewithal to do bulk buying. Some were aggrieved that the Somalian store owners, who are not even registered, have the means to purchase in bulk and hang on to people's SASSA cards, an irregular behavior that an ordinary South African shop owner cannot even begin to comprehend or implement. Most of the recipients the committee interacted with welcomed the program. This is the Spaza Shop program. However, they noted that the 3,500 allocation was far too small, given that the program only identified stores and wholesalers in Zeerust, Rustenburg, and Klerksdorp. As a result, store owners in Mafikeng, Lichtenburg, and elsewhere had to pay more for transportation cost. The committee had also intended to meet with Kula credit guarantee recipients. The scheme offers lenders, commercial banks, and other financial institutions a selection of credit guarantee packages for SMME borrowers whose access to credit is restricted by the lender's requirement for collateral. The committee is concerned that Ms. Sindiswa Maume, Mr. Johannes Ramonyane, and Mr. Amukelang Dilwane were all available